I am just overwhelmed, a little bit nervous. I don't know why. I don't often get nervous. Maybe it's because I have people in this place today that I care about and maybe want to impress a little bit with my newfound theological knowledge from all the seminary classes I've been taking. Just so you know, I've sacrificed being in class this morning to be with you. I shed no tears for that this morning. But it was Luther, theology of Luther. It's an elective, believe it or not. At my seminary, but we have other Luther classes that are not. But you know, it's funny, as I went in, I thought, the seminary, first of all, I thought, what am I doing here? Why am I here? What's wrong with me? And then every day, from the beginning, every day of my being there, God continues to reveal God's self to me in pretty crazy and amazing ways, ways much different than God did in my previous lives. And so for that, I'm thankful. In the beginning, however, I want to share a story about someone who has affected my life in great ways. Her name was Kwalayuga Gulisi Crinton. Gulisi was her nickname, but became her formal name in some ways because it meant old grandma. Old grandma. And Kwalayuga Gulisi Crittenden grew up in the hills of northeast Georgia, near a place called Spring Place. It was a place that was very close to at that time, the capital of the Cherokee Nation, of the Cherokee people. In those days, we were fighting a battle with people who were not like us, who wanted our land and wanted our resources, such as gold and water. And Kwalayuga grew up in this sort of violent place, if you will. But while she was growing, there was a vision, if you will, from these far-sighted, these forward-thinking Cherokee leaders who knew that young people were the key to the future of the Cherokee people. And so they wanted someone to come and educate young people in the Cherokee Nation because they couldn't do it themselves, and they knew that. They couldn't educate young Cherokee people to think like white people, so that they might combat the continued harassment and violence, not of the Georgians, but of the federal government and the injustices that were happening to us through policy. And so the Cherokee Nation, being probably maybe the only indigenous nation to invite missionaries to their lands, to create a school, to educate their young, to walk in both worlds. And so by the time they came, Kwalayuga was an older woman with grandchildren, and she made sure that her children got the education that these Moravian, some of you have heard that word before, Moravian missionaries offered to these young people in the Cherokee Nation. And so, because of her commitment to education for her grandchildren, her children or grandchildren, and for her commitment to hoping for a new day, a sustainable day in the Cherokee Nation, and her placing education at the center of their lives there in that time, I stand before you. Now, there are plenty of family members in my past who dropped out of school, so don't get me wrong. I do have those who didn't value education in the formal sense between she and I. But she being my 11th great-grandmother in the early 19th century, valuing education and wanting her young people to know what others knew at Spring Place, Georgia, at the Moravian Mission, has affected me my whole life because my family was the family, when gone across the Trail of Tears, that the Moravians followed to Oklahoma, to northeast Oklahoma. And some of you have heard this story from me before, but she was 11 generations ago, and their families, the Moravians and the Cherokees, lived together in what became New Spring Place, Indian Territory, and then Oaks, Oklahoma, which is my hometown. after six generations from Paliuga Gulisi Crittenden, during the generations of Anna Isaacs, my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother, who was a medicine woman, who also decided it was important for her two daughters to go to school and to attend the first institution of higher education for women, run by the Cherokee Nation, founded by the Cherokee Nation in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Yet is another matriarch in my family who in the beginning of their lives in the Cherokee Nation valued education. And then generations later, there was Oklahoma, not the state, but my grandmother. Her name was Oklahoma. Oklahoma Rebecca Blackfox, my matriarch. We were matrilineal, by the way. All those grandmothers were just bossy. They still are. Now that my mom's a grandma, she's really become more bossy. It's just crazy. But she, Oklahoma, having been raised by mother and aunties who went to college before women were expected to go to college, or even allowed to go to colleges in some places, wanted all 6 of her children out of the 9 that she had to be educated. And so they graduated with high school diplomas and went off and served most of the six boys going to serve in the military and not doing, because it was wartime, not being educated formally. All their children, down to me, have gone to college. It's a long story, that beginning. And now I'm in this beginning, another beginning. I remember in the beginning of my time here at Texas Lutheran University, when I first stepped into Norm Beck's theology class, Introduction to Theology, and I thought again, what am I doing here? What is wrong with me? And Dr. Beck making me feel just all right, understanding me to be someone who had theologies that was beyond my Lutheran heritage. Because 6 generations ago, as I mentioned, after being 6 generations Moravian, we became 6th generation Lutheran because of new missionaries coming to our community, once again invited. And so Dr. Beck, understanding that, and understanding so many different worldviews, and understanding so many different ways in which the world believes in a higher power, appreciated my perspective and embraced who I was. And so for that I say thank you. Because all those people who understood what it meant for me to walk in 2 worlds, this one where we value education as a Cherokee person, as a Native person, to survive, and yet at the same time trying to live out this profound gift of spirituality that my people have passed on for generations and hope to pass on to those outside of our communities. All those who supported me as I walked that journey, I treasure and I value, even those who 11 and 6 generations ago committed themselves to and hoped for me. Now, I share these stories because I think it's important for all of us to recognize that you too have these stories to tell. You too have these stories about people before you, your ancestors, the people who believed in a God and believed in a creator that only wanted the best for you from the beginning. You too have these stories of these families presently and in the past who support you through this education and have wanted you to grow in this spirit, who took you to confirmation, sometimes made you, if you're Lutheran or others, or maybe who encouraged you greatly to go to Sunday school at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm a youth director. I know they make them come. But you have those people in your life. And you have been those people for others. You have been doing ministry in different ways throughout your time here at college and probably even before. How do you do ministry in your daily context? How do you do ministry in your lives each and every day to inspire other people, to share the good news of Jesus Christ, to make sure that people know that God has blessed us with this great creation, that in the beginning, God created, God created all those stories. And those beginnings happen over and over every single day. This morning I woke up and I thought, well, this is the beginning of my getting nervous. I go back to Chicago tomorrow. Well, this is the beginning of classwork again. I got here on this past Thursday and I thought this is the beginning of a lot of debauchery. But each and every day, God provides these opportunities, these new beginnings, through our baptismal promise, through the wine and the bread. God gives us this grace that allows for us to touch each other's hearts and to be excited about it, about this new creation that God creates in us, each of us, together, to live out in this world for the sake of those who've gone before us, the sake of those who walk along with us, and for those who are to come. We continue to have stories about people, hear stories about churches who continue to shrink for a variety of reasons. We continue to hear stories of people whose hearts continue to shrink for a variety of reasons. We continue to hear stories of people who want our borders to grow. We continue to hear stories of people who continue to kill themselves because of the violence and the violent words they hear every day. How do we get people excited about the fact that Christ has called us to do justice in this world? And every day, we begin anew to figure that out and to work with Christ, to journey along with Jesus to make these things happen. To me, that's quite exciting. So, in your beginnings, in your createdness as a created, give glory to the Creator. Tell your stories. Know where you come from. Better yet, know where you're going. Amen.